In times like this, I always like to look for philosophical quotes, things of that nature that tie back to what we're talking about. So I went to the great philosopher, Mr. Rogers, and he once said, all of us at some time or another need help. Whether we're giving or receiving help, each one of us has something valuable to bring to this world. The legendary college basketball coach John Wooden also said, things turn out best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out. And I feel both of those stirring in this room every single time I step in here. Whether it's 30-something years ago when I stepped in here for the first time, whether it was 6 years ago getting married out in the prayer garden and taking photos right over there with my lovely wife, who also blessed us with two wonderful children. The memories just stir and stir as I walk through the hallways of this place. And it's funny because it was this weekend 7 years ago in 2018 that Megan and I joined the church as a couple. We were not married yet. We were just barely engaged at the time when we did join the church. And we ended up getting married a few months later in May of 2019. And I remember sitting there over the next few weeks as the senior pastor at the time was doing his stewardship sermon series. And I'll be honest, I wasn't inspired by the stewardship sermons. If anything, I was turned off by those sermons. It felt more like a club in the pastor golf bag than it did something that came from feeling, something that came from living here in this church and being a part of this church. But something you dusted off once a year. And that's what I wanted to steer away from today. So when Josh made the call to the bullpen to bring me in to preach this week, knowing that him and Trent were going to be up at Mountaintop, I literally stopped and laughed because I never dreamed. In fact, if someone would have asked me 5, 6, 7 years ago, would you be the one giving the stewardship sermon? I would have laughed in their face because I didn't truly understand what stewardship was. And I didn't really understand it until I lived it, until this place helped me live it and really pushed me into things that I didn't even know I was ready to do yet. 10 years ago, I didn't understand why people gave the way they gave. 7 years ago, I didn't think we'd ever be able to give that much. 5 years ago, we wanted to give more, but we didn't know how. And that's when Financial Peace University, Megan and I have talked about that, offering a class next year on that. We joined up in January of 2020 with one of the goals being to learn how to give. And it definitely taught us how to give. The first week, we made a budget. We saw in our budget, okay, we can afford to give this much money to the church each week or each month. And God working the way God works, 3 days later, I lost my job. So that was one of those things, one of those moments where you literally just stop and say, God, are you serious right now? Like, is this what we're doing? It would have been easy for us to just say, we're not going to give that much right now. Now is not the time to do that. But we didn't. We stayed faithful, we stayed trusting, and we just put our faith that God would lead us in the right direction. That same week, if you've ever done Financial Peace, you know class number 2 is the one where you cut up your credit cards. Well, we did that too. That way we didn't have that, well, we can spend it here even though we don't have it. And it worked out fine because 2 weeks later, when Megan had dove in to help me find a job, she found a better job that paid her more money and gave her more responsibility and a better career path. 2 weeks after that, I signed a contract for a new job paying me more money and had a better career path. 2 weeks after that, we look at our income and our revenue and we're like, well, now we have to reevaluate again because we need to be giving more. And the fact that I look back now, 5 years later, and that we trusted and that it happened, I mean, hindsight's obviously 2020, but it's a real example in our lives that we can turn to and say, we know God's there. We know to trust God because he'll lead us down the right path. And Psalm 34 teaches us that gratitude is not an emotion, it's a discipline of trust. And I can tell you God's faithfulness is real. Psalm 34 was written by David, and not when life was easy, but when life was terrifying. He'd been running from Saul, hiding in enemy territory, pretending to even be insane just to survive. And when God delivered him, David didn't hide, he praised. The psalm isn't written from a throne, it was written from a cave. And that's why it's powerful for us today, because gratitude, born in hardship, is the kind that lasts. we're living that gratitude every single day, whether it's the struggles of life, whether it's the struggles of a budget at our church, whether it's the struggles to afford candy for trunk or treat. We always find a way because gratitude born in hardship is the kind that lasts. If you go back to the verse, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. David made praise a choice, not a reaction. At all times means the good days, the bad days, the hard days, the celebratory days, because gratitude isn't seasonal, it's foundational. Magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. Praise that starts personally becomes communal, just like giving. Worship begins in the heart, but it finds power when we do it together. I sought the Lord and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Fears and scarcity go hand in hand. Fear and a lack of resources go hand in hand. Fear and gratitude go hand in hand because every time we give, we're saying, I trust the giver more than the gift. Like I said, it would have been easier for Megan and me to say, let's wait until we get all these things settled, until we know how much money we're going to have coming in or how long we're going to be without a specific job in that household. But faith replaces fear when we remember who holds us. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. You can't just observe God's goodness, you have to experience it. And that's like I said, I could not have done this sermon 5 years ago because while I had had blessings, I didn't know what the good times were. I didn't know what the bad times were. And little did I know in January 2020 what hard would be. We lived through the COVID-19 situation. For us, and it sounds horrible to say this to some people, 2020 was one of the best years of our lives. We paid off thousands and thousands of dollars of debt. We were blessed to get pregnant with our first child, having him in January of 2021. And we both got to work from home during all that. And so Megan didn't have to leave the house pregnant that much. Now, we get to the hospital in January 2021. We had no idea what was waiting for us because that baby stayed in the room with us the entire time right after he was born. No one else was allowed in there. And Megan to this day still wants to kill me for sleeping at all during that stretch when she could not. But we love each other, and we have that story now to laugh about because it was hard at the time. And we deal with those hardships of parenthood now, but we love the blessings every single day. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. Tithing is one way we taste and see. We're testing and trusting God's promise that those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Jesus said it this way in Luke 6:38. Give and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Paul echoed that in 2 Corinthians. God loves a cheerful giver and will bless you abundantly. You can hear about generosity all day, but until you step in and participate, you'll never know the joy of tasting and seeing God's goodness. Take it from someone who never dreamed they'd be standing here delivering this message. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Even in pain, God redeems. Even in uncertainty, God provides. Giving isn't about perfection, it's about participation. It's not about what you have, it's about who you trust. It's not about how much you give, it's about giving. Here's the heartbeat of the message. Gratitude says thank you. Commitment says I'm in. Grateful commitment is all of that together. The American author and entrepreneur Jim Rohn once said, we all should aim to be more like children. There's 4 ways to be more like a child. Number 1 is curiosity. Number 2 is excitement. Get excited like a child over your ability to make yourself do anything to affect change. 3rd is faith. Have faith like a child. Adults are too skeptical. And number 4 is trust. Trust is a childish virtue, and the rewards are incredible. That's what stewardship really is. Childlike faith alongside a grateful commitment. We're doing plenty of number 1 and number 2 in that. The curiosity and the excitement, we live that every day. Every time we see someone new walk in this church, the 25 new people we've had join this year, the 13 we had join last year, the 3 of the year before, that's curiosity and excitement at work. And we just have to live in this faith and trust that it's going to be here for some time to come. The only way to never fail is to never try. And that's what we don't need to do. Never try. We need to be trying every day, every month, every year, for as long as this church can be here. Because I'll be here all along the way as long as God will have me here. I'm not preaching this because it's stewardship season. I'm preaching this message not as a tool, not as a club, not to hit you over the head with it. It's to share a testimony. This sanctuary, this church, this family, you've shaped me into the Christ seeker that I am today, and I want that for as many more people as come after me, whether it's my children, your grandchildren, or all those who may not even be born yet. I can look around this room and see people who have shaped me. I can see places that have shaped me. I have memories of every nook and corner of this church from the time I was 3 years old until I turned 39 in 2 weeks. So do the math. 36 years across 5 different decades. There's people, and we were sitting in a board meeting last week, and I was really genuinely curious who had been here the longest as far as families go, or who had been here the longest as far as attendees go. If you've been here more than 10 years, raise your hand. Doesn't matter membership, just attending as a youth or anything. 20 years, keep your hands up. 30 years. 40 years, still some hands. 50 years, still some hands up. 60 years, still a hand up over there. Now, raise your hand if you've been here less than 1 year. That's what I like to see. A couple of weeks ago, Beth, Allen, and I had the opportunity to judge the youth group's Spooky Gingerbread House contest. And I did not realize how much that moment would mean to me. I was standing in that youth room with Beth, and it hit me like I was in a time machine. In one instant, we were standing there looking at some wonderful creations by our youth group, and some wonderful storytellers, by the way. I'm already scouting for the next lay leader in a couple of years. They will be invited and trained up well, but they are some good storytellers in that group. But I also flashed back to 25 years ago when I was sitting in that seat. Beth was sitting in that seat. There's others in here that were sitting in those seats as well. And it was really easy to flash forward as well to think in 10 or 15 years and see Moses or Sonny Joe or Iris or Stella or Alexander or Troy and all those that are in the nursery and Ivy right now, and see all them together at those tables. The fact that I had the blessing enough to stop and just be in that moment. I don't do that enough. I don't think anybody does that enough. That room just brings back so many memories, great, not so great, blessings, hard times. But really what it is, it's an affirmation of faith for me. It's an affirmation of why we give and why we support and why we steward for this church. We give so that this church can keep being that time machine, not just for me, but for many, many others. That place where past, present, and future generations meet the love of Christ. I found the love of Christ in our fellowship hall in 2004. I can show you exactly where I was sitting when it hit me. And I hope that my children have the same feeling one day. Hopefully they'll have it way sooner than I did. But I can tell you exactly when and where and who was sitting around me. I can describe the smell in the air when it happened. And that was 21 years ago. I want that for as many people that also seek that in their lives. We are the only remaining United Methodist Church in this county because we believe everyone belongs at Christ's table. Our giving is what keeps that table open, lit with grace, filled with hope, and ready for the next person, the next family, the next anyone who walks in who needs welcoming arms and welcoming hearts and a hand to hold to God's table. Let's be a Psalm 34 church where gratitude turns into action, where praise turns into generosity, and where faith replaces fear.